Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. It's been quite a while since the last time I filmed, and I have a few reasons for that. As can be seen in my last few vlogs, I've been in a place called Almenekar, and it's been a combination of not having too much new stuff to show, and also just been really busy with work. Because as soon as I land in Almenekar, it's a very familiar area to me. I'm just going to settle down for a bit and get cracking with some work, and it felt a little bit boring to, I wasn't quite sure what else to make a vlog on. I think I'll get better at this as I go, because I've got a few ideas for how to, develop these vlogs to make them more interesting and do different things with them as well. But in the meantime, I have moved on finally after about a month. I hope there's not too much background noise in this video because it's very, very windy at the moment. The weather's just been pretty crazy in the last couple of weeks. There's a storm coming over, I think the third named storm of the year hitting Europe. And it's hitting quite a big region of Europe as well, I believe. So it's all the way, the low pressure areas, all the way from the north of the UK, all the way down to here in Spain. Yeah, I'm actually getting shook about right now, so I've got the stabilization on the camera on quite sharp, hopefully to level things out a bit, and the noise reduction as well. Because I've got this roof vent up here, and when the wind blows past it makes a whistling noise. And I've landed in a place that I've been last year as well, called the Tabernas Desert, or Tabernas, or I don't actually know how you pronounce it, but it's a desert region just north of Almeria, and it's the only true desert in Europe. And yeah, you think a desert means dry weather, and it is dry, don't get me wrong, it's one of the driest regions in Spain. Because of this unique geography, even though it's on the ocean, the mountains that surround it create this kind of bowl shape that's shaded from the rain quite a bit. And the vegetation here is really dry and it looks like a desert. And it's very famous for that reason, because back in the day, lots of people filmed the westerns here. So they were called the spaghetti westerns, which is a reference to the fact a lot of Italian film directors made their films here. So while I'll tell you a bit more about what I've been doing, I'm just going to cook my dinner. I've got something that I eat like 5 times a week, and that's soup with legumes of some kind. As you can tell, these jars are pretty massive. They don't sell much smaller in Spain. It's either this or like tiny jars. And usually one of these jars is enough for a whole dinner for me. So I eat like bean soup 5 times a week. And that's not a problem for me because I absolutely love legumes. So let me just grab a chopping board. And usually what I do is I go to the markets. In one of my previous vlogs I showed it off that I buy these tiny veggies. So this tiny cute little pepper. And that's plenty to add to a jar of that. And then make some soup. And I've got an onion. That's pretty much it. Very simple meals, like this way of life. I've only got this one burner. It's simple meals. Yeah, a month in Almenekar. It's been very, very nice spending time with friends while down there. And, I've also been doing things that are just kind of, apart from work. I had to go to the dentist, things like that. And because of that, I was kind of stuck in Almenekar for a little while to get all the things out of the way that I needed to do. And but all that's finished now, and I was like, you know what, time to move on for a while, especially because the weather was looking so awful in Almenekar. Yeah, I feel very happy. I'm catching up with a friend who's coming over here in a couple of days. And we're going to spend some time in the desert, making campfires, just enjoying life for a bit. Because my life is either, fully work, or rest. Like, there's not much in between for me. But the thing with the Tabernas Desert is there's loads and loads of like old film sets that still remain. And I think these days they'd probably be cleared up. But here these are films from the 60s and 70s, and they just left the sets. And that's actually where I'm parked up right now. I'm parked up near a film set, or 2 film sets even, that are just sitting there, like, have been for, see, there's a film called Exodus from 1960, so that's been 60 years now that film set's been sitting there. 65 years that film set's just been sitting there, and it's still mostly standing. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that, you know, these areas you can just go and visit. There's a few in the Tabanas Desert that have been commercialized, like they've changed them into you know, paid attractions, even places where you can camp. So they charge you money, you know, to stay with your camper van, but you can kind of, you know, kind of camp out in the middle of this really cool old western town, essentially. So these films were all meant to be set, obviously, in the wild west of America, but it's Spain. So I actually showed some pictures to an Arizonan friend of mine. Shout out to Chris Shadowins over at his channel, Is It Any Good? He makes a really cool channel about trying different food stuff, so go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description. And I showed some pictures to him because he lives in Arizona, and he said that the desert here looks like Arizona, which is no surprise really, because it's close to Tucson, which is also where they filmed a lot of the westerns back in the day. And yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, like, I think you'd need to be a botanist to be able to see that the vegetation here doesn't match the true Wild West that would have been in America. So a bit of water. Give it a little shake. This is not a cooking channel, by the way. Just saying. And then the last thing I want to add is some peppers. These are like dried chilies. I mean chilies, not peppers. These are, I think they're like bird eye chilies or something. Yeah, just 3 of those. That's plenty. And just give them a little chop on the board. And then once they kind of cook in with the rest of the soup, they kind of disperse their flavor and their spiciness. Well, it smells great already. You can never go wrong with a legume and some spices. I don't actually have like a pan lid, but everything when you live in a van, everything's multi-purpose. So plate on the pan works just as well. So here's a quick view of the desert as seen from my cab. Whoa! Holy moly! It's winter right now, so it's the perfect, you know, weather usually, perfect temperature for spending time in a desert like this. And there's quite a few other campers here. This area is huge, it's massive, because up on the ridge above the valley, I could look down into this and I saw about 100 different campers, but everyone's spread out so far, it doesn't feel like you're on top of each other. So yeah, hopefully the next part of this video is me gonna be exploring these ruined buildings and this film set. They're proper buildings, you know, they're not like just fronts, so it'll be really cool to see. A little bit at night, a little bit during the day, maybe. We'll see. See you soon. I'm not sure how well this comes across on the camera, but this is one of the many old film sets in the desert. I believe this is the one where they filmed the film called Exodus from 1960. Which means that this set has been abandoned here for 65 years. Yeah, just some of these outer walls seem a bit leaning, but everything else is still standing. And this is actually the badly preserved one as well. There's another one near where my van is parked that's in a lot better shape. Someone leave their old couch here. see the city lights very well from here. Sal Maria. It's a bit better to see. Wood planks. Gotta be careful not stepping on your nails. But it's just so surprisingly well preserved for being here for 65 years, you know. There's a little bit of junk, but it's not as bad as you would imagine. You can imagine this being a real slum town if it's if given a chance. Good morning everyone. So it's actually the next day right now and I've decided to take a little morning walk as the wind's finally calmed down. A little look around the valley. A little bit of blue sky above. There's my van over there. Always stands out in the middle of the desert colours. There's a load of other vans down there on the horizon but they're all white, so you know. Alright, so I'm back at my van and I think it's time to make some breakfast. Something I make almost every day is oatmeal. Very easy to store because it's dry. Just add some milk, add some fruit. And you got a lovely breakfast on the go. So I usually do like a cup and a bit of oats. There we go. And yeah, I always stock up on soy milk, which is from Lidl. It's very nice. It's an unsweetened soy milk. Very cheap in Spain as well. And yeah, I usually try to, because obviously my fridge isn't on. It's just a place for storing. So I have to use this entire thing in like 2 days before it goes bad. And that's one of the only things that I'd really need a fridge for, to be honest. Because most of my foods are either dry or canned or, you know, can be kept for a long time. Like fruits and veggies, like fresh ones, can just be kept for quite a while on their own, which is nice. Add a good splash of that and turn that on while cutting up some apple. Yeah, I just came back from my walk and you know, when you go walking in these kind of areas, especially when there's a lot of other campers, sometimes you see things you don't really want to see, you know. You walk places and you see people squatting down and you're like pretending you didn't see anything, and you do this weird thing where probably they saw that you saw, but you pretend that you didn't see. So it leads to kind of awkward moments, but you know, it's all part of the life. I try not to expose myself to anyone like that, but you know, you're in the middle of the desert, I guess, and there's not many trees around. But it does make you wonder, like, you know, in a place like this where it rains very little, it's not going to wash away anytime soon. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, very nice talk early in the morning while making breakfast. Apple. Add that into the pan. Usually what I like to do with my oats is boil them for a while and then turn off the fire and just leave the oats to soak up all the liquid, and then it turns really thick. And then add a bit more water to it and heat it back up, and you get like nice, you know, lots of volume. So it's definitely going to need some more liquid. Usually like to mix it with a bit of water, so I have enough milk throughout the day for my tea and all that kind of stuff. usually I combine apple with something like if you add raisins and cinnamon, you basically get like apple pie flavor. But I don't have raisins at the moment. I do have two other things. So either dried figs or dates. But to be honest, I've never had dried figs before. Coming to Spain, like it's quite a big, hefty bag, and it costs about the same as a bag of dates. I'll go for the dates today, but yeah. Add those at the very end. Usually while I'm leaving that to boil, I fill my kettle with some water for tea. And to pass the time last night while it was windy, I decided to watch a film. It was called Romancing the Stone from the 80s. I think 83 or 84. And it was recommended to me by another friend. And it's interesting because he grew up in the 80s, so most of his film knowledge is from the 80s. And my familiarity with films is mostly from either the 90s or later, or from a very early period in Hollywood. Because I went through a phase in my 20s where I was only watching films from the 40s and 50s, like the film noir kind of genre of films. And a lot of like Humphrey Bogart films that not necessarily film noir, like Casablanca or something, but they're still very beautiful and from that kind of era. So my film knowledge is like, either very old or very modern. And it's lovely getting some personal recommendations of films from the 80s I could enjoy. Especially because, we have such a stereotyped view of the 80s nowadays with like nostalgia goggles and stuff. And this kind of faux retro thing going on. And you can also kind of see it happening now with the 90s, don't you? With all the fucking pink colors and stuff and all the, I don't know. It's kind of, I call it kind of the roller disco vibe, you know what I mean? It's kind of an overlap between the 80s and 90s where you get this weird faux nostalgia going on. And I don't remember that from my childhood. So it's probably not a realistic portrayal of the 80s either. Like, to be fair, most of my knowledge of the 80s was from films like Back to the Future, which is one of the few films from the 80s that I actually watched. But obviously that kind of is emblematic of the 80s. So it's been lovely, like, getting, recommendations for films to watch from that era and kind of, learning more, have a bit more of a cultural understanding. Because I miss films that are just fun. Just like a little adventure or a little story. Something small, something self-contained. Like everything today is either a big film cinematic universe or a series or leaves the door open for more. But you don't need to leave the door open for more. Like, and sometimes if you do leave the door open for more, it's more of a wink. It's more of a, like, it could continue, but it's not gonna. It's just kind of, and I miss that kind of whole roundedness of those stories. And it's literally you sit down for maybe up to 2 hours, and that's it. That's the story. And I really miss that in modern cinema. Like, I've really struggled finding films, especially now in the 2020s, finding films that actually engage me. I can't actually remember the last modern film that I watched that I really enjoyed. Not that I watched a lot of film, so that's something I'm trying to change as well, because that's another reason, right? Like me growing up with the internet, my platforms are things like YouTube. That's what I grew up on, and obviously younger kids, they grew up on things like TikTok, more short form format stuff. And I still like to keep my media intake slightly longer form on YouTube. And obviously you had this big shift in the 2010s towards YouTube having more actual long form content, like people making hour-long videos, because I think it was kind of an interplay between the way the platform was going and advertising, and it was more rewarding to make videos that engaged viewers for longer for monetary gain, right? But because of that incentive, I think it also encouraged longer form video, which I think in some cases is really good, but in other cases it just ended up making content, like people were making content that was just felt long-winded, instead of it actually being thoughtful. So like, why does it need this length? Like, why does it need to be an hour-long video? Or is it something you can say in 10 minutes? And most of the time, a lot of the times, it's the latter, right? Like, there's no reason for a social commentary video to be that long sometimes. Like, sometimes what you need to say can be said in 10 minutes, not an hour. And they're just tacking on the minutes for engagement. And it's like an engagement economy, right? Like, it's all attention economy thing about where the longer you can be engaged, the more profitable you are for advertisers. And so that encourages that kind of content. But is it good for your media kind of intake? But, the fact that it's longer form content doesn't necessarily mean it's any better, right? Like, the thing with a film or movie is, like, every minute counts. Like in the film I watched yesterday, Romancing the Stone, like every scene adds something to the overall story. Like it builds the character, or it introduces a new challenge for the characters, or like a plot twist, or something drives the story forward all the time. And sometimes I find myself watching long form content on YouTube, and it just feels like, where's this going? Like, you already said this 5 minutes ago. And I obviously also realized that a lot of YouTube videos are made by single people, not like a whole team of filmmakers and editors and all that kind of stuff. So you do have a variety of quality on YouTube, and I do like the democratizing nature of YouTube, where people could suddenly make their own videos and their own content, and whether or not it was good quality was up to the viewer to decide, right? Like, it's very democratic in a sense. But anyway, all that aside, all that analysis aside, what I've noticed by myself is that I was watching way more YouTube instead of content that I, kind of knew was dedicated to like something artistic, like film. And I really miss, just sitting down for something and focusing on it for 2 hours and not having any distractions, and just engaging myself in a story, in that world, in where is the artistic vision of the director and the actors, where is it taking me, rather than just kind of having this YouTube video on in the background and kind of half listening while doing something else, right? So yeah, it's obviously it's something we all struggle with in modern times, I think. Like, we all we're all hooked by our phones, we're all hooked by short form content. And obviously what I'm doing right now is I'm just one person making a vlog. But to be honest, I'm not doing it to attract viewers or to sell advertising or anything. Like, I don't want to make money. I just want to express what I'm thinking. And if somebody wants to listen to that and share their thoughts, that's up to them, right? I think there's space for every kind of media consumption in the world. There's space for, watching commentary videos. There's space for watching films. But there needs to be more of a balance, I think. And it's been very easy for a lot of people, and for my brain as well, to engage with things that feel easy. And it's funny, isn't it? Like going to watch a film in a cinema or even at home, that isn't supposed to be hard. That's supposed to be something you do for fun and relaxation and entertainment, right? And somehow to my brain, maybe I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but it's been feeling harder. It's been feeling like effort to sit down and watch a film, rather than, go off to YouTube or play a video game with instant gratification. So yeah, I've always kind of but I've always thought myself slightly more immune than other people to this kind of thing, because I don't enjoy TikTok. I don't enjoy extremely short content, because it makes my brain, it overstimulates me and it makes me feel stressed. So I tend to avoid very short videos. So I always thought myself maybe not better, but slightly more above that kind of content. But I don't think I am, not in every way. And I definitely feel the effects of picking and choosing, of jumping from one thing to the next. And I want to do less of that. And I want to actually engage with media I know is good as well, and get recommendations from friends, and they tell me like, this is something that I've really enjoyed and I think you will enjoy. And then when I sit down to actually watch it and engage with it, it feels like I have more of a connection with those people as well. Like people recommending me their favorite books. That's another whole topic, right? Books. There's no hierarchy. But it's how you engage with that content. And again, this is kind of funny, isn't it? Because you're on the platform right now on YouTube, where there's probably loads of other people who have talked at length about exactly this topic. And the irony is you're watching a dissemination of video that analyzes exactly this problem, and it's kind of meta in a way. But for me myself, I'm just trying to go slightly more back to the basics, because this is why I live this lifestyle as well, right? I live in a van to be more in touch with nature. Like I can literally just step out there and I'm right in the desert. I don't need to make any trips anywhere to go to places. I'm not a tourist. This is just where I am. And I try to make this this feeling of presentness, of being present, of being in the moment, part of my life. And that's it's one of the reasons why I've been, I think, a lot happier in the last 5 years. Like since I got this van, it's been a learning curve. But once I think the learning curve kind of settled, I really feel a lot more calm, a lot more just happy. It feels good. I don't think I'm meant to live in an apartment. So I don't know where the future's going to take me with this, but I don't really think about it. I live in the present. I live now, and right now I want to do things with more attention, more presence, and a little bit of focus, I guess. And it's also part like making art, like making videos, drawing, taking pictures, taking photos. I want to do those things for me, for engaging with the world. It's not for anyone. This is not for anyone but me. So, it's just, that's me rambling about the reasons why I do things. But, it's nothing new. Nothing new at all. Like that. This is something that lots of people contend with, I think. And I'm just trying to vocalize it and to actually, like put words to why I feel the way I do. And does that mean I'm gonna be on YouTube again in an hour watching videos while eating my breakfast? Yeah, probably. But I try to keep it thoughtful. Like, for example, in the last couple of days, I've just been binging dinosaur videos, just learning about dinosaurs. It's not a fixation. It's just I like to learn new things, and I do think YouTube is a fantastic platform for like just absorbing all these little facts about the world. And it's not like I want to make myself smarter. It's just the pure sheer enjoyment of learning new things. I really do love learning. And I don't think I should, ignore that part of myself in favor of, media education about, watching more films or reading more books. Because as nice as fiction is, I enjoy the world as it is as well. So, yeah. It's funny, it's like the Spanish and the Portuguese. Completely different word, That's another thing with learning. I really should learn Spanish, but oh man, learning languages is something else, It's the thing, I love learning, but retaining stuff, now that's the hard part. That's all the Yorkshire tea I've got left from my old box. Luckily I have one more box after this, so hopefully it will last me until the summer when I'll be back in the UK. Most likely, as things are looking right now. Hello, so it's a couple of days later and I'm currently having a lovely hike in the desert. And one thing that I want to show you is the fact that, when you think about deserts, you think about, mostly dry area. It's all very monotone looking. But look, check out these colors in this landscape. Like, it's an absolute rainbow if you look carefully. And obviously there's a bit more greenery here than you would expect in a regular desert. But even so, even though it's arid and dry, you can see all the yellows and the blues from the stone, green from the shrubs, which are quite dry, but And the variety of the landscape is just stunning. From here it gives a much better view of the valley. So up there's the town that I walked from. And yeah, I just climbed up on a nearby hill on the road down. And that over there is the film sets, or the flats where the film sets are. You can tell off to the right there, that's like the really old one from Exodus. And there's also like a faux town here in the front. And there's loads of campers about. Yeah, when you walk up this path that follows through the mountains, you don't feel like you're going up this high. And from here you can see the sea as well. Just off in the distance is Almeria. And yeah, it's very close to the seaside. It really isn't that far away. This stone is almost purple. Very strange. Especially if you compare it to the stone around it. Everything is with slate and grey. This is like reddish purple. With the ochre colours. Green, blue. It's a rainbow in the desert.